Hi, Tim from Fairplay now. Sorry I've been away for the last few days so that's the reason I haven't posted recently. Had a couple of days up at my brother's actually, who lives about 100 miles away from where I do, and went up there, met up with him and a mate, and we played a little bit of golf, did a little bit of drinking, meal out, that kind of thing over the 2 nights that I was up there. And a lot's happened just in those last few days since my last post, which I think was on Friday or Thursday maybe. And we've had this stupid 3-tier lockdown announcement nonsense. So just continuing with the nonsense. And of course, while I was up there with my brother and my mate up in where my brother lives, we were discussing the whole situation. I think my brother's a little bit like me, although he's a bit kind of argumentative, so he always likes to sort of argue the opposite of what you're saying, so he's kind of, so I couldn't really tell quite how keen he is on all the lockdown stuff, COVID stuff or otherwise, but I suspect, reading between the lines, he's a bit like me, maybe not quite as extremely anti-lockdown as I am, but he seems to be sort of at least pissed off with it. But it's a little bit disappointing because my mate, who also plays golf with us up there, he seems to be a lot more with the mainstream narrative, and I was kind of, well, not arguing with him, sort of a bit more of a slightly lively discussion rather than argument, shall we describe it as. And yeah, he just seems very on board with the whole mainstream and government narrative. Oh, the virus is still around, it's still dangerous. Oh, what if a load of people get it and we get another 40,000 deaths? You know, that was his sort of take on it. Even though all the evidence points to the opposite of that. You know, the death rates, average age of death is 80 plus, which is pretty much bang on where the average normal life expectancy is anyway. If you're sort of younger than 50, stand almost no chance of dying from it. Even if you're under 70, you stand very little chance of dying from it. Far more chance of dying from so many other things, which we're not sort of taking extreme measures against. And I was trying to explain stuff like that to him, but he was very much, you know what these people are like when you try and explain things to them. If they're sort of too into the mainstream narrative, they just don't want to know. And I remember I had a similar kind of argument with him on another golf tour we went on last November about the whole sort of global warming, climate change stuff, and I'm a little bit sceptical about that as well, and I was saying why I'm sceptical on it, and I'm not saying it's not a problem or could be a problem, but I don't buy into the sort of mainstream narrative on that as readily as many other people do. So I had a bit of a lively discussion with him on that as well. So yeah, I think he just doesn't seem to question the mainstream narrative quite enough for my liking. And whereas I've got to the point where it's almost like whatever the mainstream narrative is saying, just sort of look at the opposite, take the opposite viewpoint, and you're probably going to be more close to the truth. So anyway, that was that, and then I come back, and my wife actually went out with some of her friends, and I think think the general consensus from her friends is they're getting thoroughly sick and tired of all the lockdown nonsense, the continuing restrictions. And I was talking to one of my customers yesterday as well, and she was saying how she's getting really sick and tired of all the restrictions, and increasingly beginning to think it's a lot of nonsense. So I think there is starting to be a groundswell of opinion out there that we should get back to normal, start getting rid of the restrictions, and certainly don't go any further into the restrictions. And it's heartening that the WHO have actually said they're now anti-lockdown. Don't know why they've changed their stance on that. I think there's probably a bit of controversy about that, but at least it's a mainstream organisation who people listen to, government listen to. It's a bit sort of weird that they said that they're against further lockdown restrictions, and then Boris goes against them. So I don't know what Boris thinks he's playing at. Anyway, there's just a few thoughts there. Yeah, I suppose to conclude this, yeah, there are people out there like my mate who's still continuing to buy into all the nonsense, but I think there's more and more people now starting to question things. I guess being basically an optimistic person, I'm quite positive for the future, or more positive than I have been for a while, shall we say. So anyway, let's sort of keep an eye on how things are going to go. So Tim from Fair Play now, thanks for watching.